Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to my friends in Europe. Happy Tuesday. We have another update today. We're up about 30. But there are some real positive signs today. There's a lot to go over. So I want to start with thank you. I'm glad I needed a haircut. It was bad. I was in desperate need. So, do you guys remember what my 3 levers were for the market? What were the 3 things that I was watching in this market? Yes, number 1 was IWM. The Russell 2000, it's up 1%. How much is the S&P 500 up? 5/8 of a percent, or 58 basis points. How much is the NASDAQ 100 up? 75 basis points. How much is the Dow up? The Dow is up 40 basis points. So is the Russell 2000 leading us higher today? Yes, it is. That is sign number 1 of, hey, maybe we're calming down. All right. Now, Scott said number 2 was bonds. You're right. Bonds. Now, you can see where the bond market got. All right. TLT got to the lows of January and was threatening the lows from October 2023. Not great times. Today, bond market pretty flat. 10-year note is up. HYG looks all right. And LQD looks all right. LQD is an investment grade bond fund. HYG is a junk bond fund. Both up. Bond market is not that bad. And then lastly, VIX. VIX is down 2 points. We're below 30. What does our term structure look like? Going live. We have really flattened up. Now, April is going to move with the index. We're paying attention to May and June, and they are only 0.6% apart now. April expiration is going to be tomorrow morning. So today is the last day of trading for April VIX options, and then we begin May. Rawhide wants to know, Mark, what do I think of puts in HYG? I think we're very near a spot where I would want to get rid of them. We're not quite there yet. But there are a lot of positives in the market that I like. And so, with the Russell leading, we may hit the exit today on some of the hedging. So, now what? VIX is still high. We're still kind of in this no man's land. What now? All right. Well, I want to remind you that we're doing $19 for a week of Delta Strike this week so that you get the opportunity to trade live with me. And I want to tell you kind of the other piece. Now, over the last few weeks, one of the things I was paying attention to was SPX. That's the S&P 500 options. I think it's without, without exaggeration, last week was the busiest week that the S&P 500 has ever had in its options. I'm not using hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating. It was literally the busiest week we've ever had. Last 10 days, most volume that we've ever seen in the option market. And remember, the option market is now bigger than the stock market. That happened over 2 years ago. So we have this option market that's bigger than the stock market. So it's really dictating to us which way stocks move. All right. Remember the pecking order. Number one, what is the biggest financial instrument out there? There's a reason why I talk about it every single day. What is the biggest financial instrument out there? Bonds. Correct. Good job. All right. Bonds will always be the biggest financial instrument out there by far. Now, on a notional value level, options outpace stock by about 5x. More value in option trades every day than in the stock market. So we have bonds, we have options, and then we have stock. That is our pecking order. There's a reason. That's why I talk about bonds every day. And then number two, options being bigger than stock, is why I'm an option trader. Why I love options and why they're the best. So the options over the last week, I want to kind of show you something that I watch. What I watch is this option trade breakdown on a daily basis. I look at the volume, I look at the puts and the calls. So on the left are calls, on the right are puts, and in the middle in this gray bar are the totals. So for instance, for today, we've been open for 39 minutes and they've traded 453,000 contracts. Look at the way that climbs. It's crazy. Now, what I look at is down here. I'm going to cut this and magnify it so that it's easier for you to see. All right, everybody should be able to see that and read that now, correct? Good. All right, now, what I watch is this number and this number. All right, so what is a delta? And what is a net delta? A delta, I want you to think of as your exposure to the S&P 500. So if I own $1 million of delta, that means if the S&P 500 goes up $1, I make $1 million. So this net delta number represents how much S&P 500 exposure traders have bought using options. Does that make sense to everyone? So net delta is, I'm going to draw a triangle for delta, equals S&P 500 exposure. So today, traders have sold 670,000 deltas of the S&P 500. It's a regular amount. Normally, we expect that number to be plus or minus about 5 to 700,000. Now, what did that number look like on the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th? What do you think that delta number looked like? Do you think it was heavily negative, like traders were selling during the panic? Or do you think it was positive? What do you think? It was positive. It was positive. Traders were buying between 2.5 and 3.5 million deltas, about 4 to 6x what we would expect as the market was selling off. Good job, Rahad. So what do you think that means? Why would the market have this massive positive market exposure during major selling? Here's your answer. I own a $6,000 a 6,000 strike put in the S&P 500. The S&P 500 sells off down to 5,300. What do I do with my put? So I buy a $6,000 strike put. The S&P falls and is now trading 5,300. What do I do with my put? It's $700 in the money now. I sell it. When I sell my hedge, that equals a word that I've said many times. What is that word? It starts with an M. I am monetizing. Yes, I am monetizing. All right. Now, once I monetize my hedge, maybe I buy some cheaper downside puts, but on the net, I am creating a lot of cash and I am completely changing my market exposure. All right. Now, how much money is 3 million deltas? Let's do some math. 3 million and the S&P is, let's say, 5,400. That is $16.2 billion being monetized. Now imagine over the course of 4 or 5 days, we monetize 12 billion, 14 billion, 16 billion. Next thing you know, using options, traders have put aside at least $100 billion. Now you're saying, Mark, how can I tell that they monetized? And that's where this net premium number is. All right. So if I buy options, I am paying premium. It'll be red. If I sell options, it'll be green. So we had this big, huge net delta long, and we had this big, huge green number, which tells me traders are selling puts. They're taking off their hedges and not hedging as much. Now, do you think Goldman Sachs is good at figuring out when market bottoms are? Are they better than me? Do you think the 4,000 people that are working with at Goldman and are looking at those pipes, I love you, Vicky, but let's be serious. You think those people, maybe they're not smarter than me, but they certainly know more. Is that fair? No, you're not hurting my feelings. Right? Maybe they're not smarter than me, but they definitely know more. And so if they are going long the market and they're selling their hedges, what are they telling us? And when did that? I love Vicky. All right. And when did that kind of peak? When did this crazy selling in the S&P 500 peak? The 7th and the 8th. And the morning of the 9th. So here's your monetizing. And now they're sitting in cash, kicking back, deciding which way this market is going to go. As you can see, we've pulled back a little bit. We were up 30 when I started talking. We're still up, but we're not. We're off a little bit. You should expect this. Watch the Russell 2000. That goes red. We're going to have a rough day. Apple is rolling over. I still think there's downside in Apple. But that is exactly where your S&P got flat. Here's the S&P. Here's Apple. Here's the S&P. You'll notice they line up perfectly. Nice little gap. So, all that monetization, all of that cash on the sideline is waiting to pounce. Now, during this market, and this is why Delta Strike is so good for where we are right now. All right. If somebody goes out and buys a ton of key bank calls, right? You've never heard of, if you're not in New Jersey, you've never heard of key bank. Who is out buying huge positions in key bank in the middle of a sell-off? Someone that knows key bank is going up. So take a look at the chart of key. Look at nice little rally here coming off the bottom. Today, we had a trader that was long the 14 calls, sell to close. And then buy the May 15 calls. Now, they also did this with some puts. And when I say they, who do I mean by they? Northport, Florida man says, Key sucks, turned me down for a car loan when I was 20 years old. Makes me know that they're financially responsible and that's a good investment because, who's giving 20-year-old Northport, Florida man a car loan? No one responsible. So we have a trader buying to close the 11.5 put and selling to open the May 12 put. Stock has earnings on the 17th. Well, let's see how their trade did. And we can do this pretty easily. They put this trade up on the 8th. So they bought their key bank trade when it was $13.20. It's up $1. When I say they, I mean banks, hedge funds, Goldman Sachs. All right. So now what I can do, since I know it's the 8th, you're going to love this. This is something we do in Delta Strike. I can go to the 8th. I can go to all the option trades. And I can look at their trade. They did in Key Bank. Huh. Where was the... Do I have my date wrong? Oh, it's the 10th. I'm sorry, folks. It was the 10th, not the 8th. So here we are from April 10th. They paid 58 cents, Goldman, to buy the 14 call and 57 cents. And they sold the 11.5 put at 18 cents. So they paid 40 for this spread. Here we are today. And they sold it, right? They bought the 11.5 put back for a nickel and sold the 14 call at 69 cents. So they collected 64 cents. So they paid 40 and they made 24 cents on it. That a good trade? In the middle of this market mess, somebody knew Key was going up and they bought calls. And this is something we're going to look at closely in Delta Strike. It looks like they rolled it to the May 12-15, whoever this trader was. So we got a trader that made money that is now rolling the position out to May. That is where order flow, looking at these large block trades, can really work in our favor. Why? If the market is falling apart and somebody's out buying calls, they are really really strong in conviction. Same thing in puts. Now, when do we bottom out? When do we bottom out? We may have bottomed out. I believe the high in the VIX is already past us. But what I want to see is really big, large contract buying in a few names. I want to see a lot of calls in JP Morgan, the leader in the financial industry. I want to see call buying in SMH or NVIDIA. Why? Tells me they're not so worried about tech. I want to see it in. I want to see large call buying in Amazon. I want to see large call buying in like a Procter and Gamble. That tells me money is hitting the general market. I also want to see large block buying in the Russell 2000. That's the other reason. So we're looking at large block flow. Why? One, we're going to find the diamonds in the rough, like a key bank. Makes no sense, but it's good, right? Somebody's buying 30,000 calls in key. I want to know, especially in this market. But also, it's when large block paper starts tipping its hand by showing us they are getting heavily involved in the major players in the finance, tech, and tech space. And again, broad market, giant call buying, another thing that I would love to see. So far, we haven't seen that yet. Can I get you unusual option activity by sector? I could filter for that. I don't, but I could. So today, again, we're not seeing any large block flow that's making me go, wow. But we are seeing, and this is a positive, monetization. When I see in the money puts in SPY being sold, that to me is really bullish. And there you have it, folks. So, what now? One, HSBC. We're going to be looking at that one later. One, 19 bucks. It's like 2.5 Big Macs. I spent more than that at CVS buying a small can of coffee, a half a gallon of milk, and some coffee creamer. All right. So the question is, when I'm looking at this flow, what does red, black, and green mean? Green means they bought. Red means they sold. Black means mid-market. And so this is where me coming in and knowing flows and order flow can kind of help me. Do I have to pay to see this data? I pay LiveVol. We are a reseller of LiveVol. If I went and bought this out of the box, this is about $600 a month. But we bulk buy. And so I think across the board, we can sell this to you at like $340 a month, but it's worth it. What does mid-market mean? All right, great question. So the VIX 22 calls traded $6.50. See, 3,428 of them traded $6.50. Was it a buy or sell? This is where I go to the market, right? Mid-market. The market at the time, if I wanted to just sell as quick as I could have sold my calls at 625. If I was looking to buy, I had to pay 665. So 650 falls in between this market. Here, I'll cut it for you so you can see. It's too big. All right. So you can see the price right here, 650. The market, 625 at 665. So it was between 650 was in between the bid and the ask. That is what mid-market meetings. You're welcome. All right. So again, I'm running out of time here, but you can join me in Delta Strike for just 19 bucks. We're going to spend a good chunk of time digging through order flow, talking about the market, and looking for actual trades that we can make some money off of. I'm going to continue to be with you here every single day until you guys until we feel like the market is back to normal. It is clearly not yet, but you don't have to worry. I will not abandon you guys. But if you'd like more time with me every single day for just $19, you can join me. Again, it's like 2.5 Big Macs. It's like 2 Big Macs and a side of fries. And it's a lot of fun. Rawhide says best deal in town. I could not agree more. All right. I could not agree more. So what I want you to do is click the link. If you have questions about this, give my team a call, 888-872-3301. I'll be fair, Neil. So give my team a call and or just click the link that's pinned to this chat. I hope everybody has a great and profitable day. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. So for my entire team, I'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. But I want to see all of you at Delta Strike today at noon. So for my incredible team, I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. I hope you have a awesome, wonderful day. I'll talk to you guys soon.